Welcome to G Fun Facts Online. For a brief, terrifying moment in 2020, it seemed like the world's great cities were finished. The vibrant hearts of culture and commerce fell silent, and headlines predicted a mass exodus, the end of cities as we knew them. But they were wrong. The pandemic wasn't an apocalypse for urban life. It was a crucible. It didn't destroy our cities. It forced them to evolve. What we're living through now is a profound recalibration, a period of intense transformation that is forging a new metropolitan identity, one that is more complex, more digital, and hopefully more human. The most immediate and seismic shift began with two words: work from home. What started as a temporary health measure has become a permanent feature of the global economy. In 2023, over 12% of full-time employees in the US were fully remote, and another 28% were in a hybrid model. This isn't just a change in lifestyle, it's a direct challenge to the economic foundation of the 20th century city, the central business district. The impact on commercial real estate has been staggering. By late 2023, the national office vacancy rate in the US hit a record 19.6%. In cities once defined by their skylines, the numbers are even starker. Midtown Manhattan's vacancy rate climbed to over 22%, while San Francisco's soared to a breathtaking 32.5%. These aren't just empty floors. They represent a potential 28% drop in the value of office buildings in cities like New York, leading to massive revenue shortfalls for city governments. But crisis breeds innovation. From the ashes of the empty office, a new trend is rising: adaptive reuse. Cities are beginning to convert these underutilized commercial buildings into desperately needed residential apartments. In 2024 alone, an estimated 5,300 office units are slated for conversion into homes. One of the most iconic examples is the Tribune Tower in Chicago, transformed into nearly 1 million square feet of residential and commercial space. And in New York City, 25 Water Street is undergoing the largest office-to-residential conversion in U.S. history, creating over 1,300 new apartments. This trend is a dual-pronged solution, tackling office vacancies and housing shortages simultaneously, while helping to build more vibrant, 24/7 downtowns that aren't just for 9-to-5 workers. This economic shift was accompanied by a demographic one, often called the Great Migration. In the first 2 years of the pandemic, major cities saw a significant outflow of residents. New York City lost an estimated 309,000 people. Chicago and Philadelphia saw declines of 44,000 and 17,000, respectively. Driven by the new freedom of remote work and a desire for more space and affordability, people flocked to suburban and exurban areas, some 30 to 60 miles from a city's core. But the story doesn't end there. The narrative of permanent urban decline was premature. By 2023, a recovery was well underway. Major metro areas collectively gained over 870,000 residents, fueled by a drop in people moving out and a significant surge in international migration. Even urban cores that were hit hard, like San Francisco and Manhattan, have started to see modest population gains again. This reshuffling is changing the character of both cities and suburbs. New arrivals are bringing demands for urban-style amenities, walkable downtowns, diverse restaurants, cultural venues, to their new suburban homes. At the same time, the slight dip in urban housing prices made city living more accessible for a new generation of younger residents, drawn to the very energy and culture that defines urban life. However, the pandemic's impact was anything but uniform. It acted as a brutal amplifier of pre-existing inequalities. The crisis laid bare the deep-seated divides in our cities, and its burden fell disproportionately on marginalized communities. In New York City, data revealed that Black and Latino residents suffered mortality rates twice as high as their white counterparts, a grim testament to unequal access to healthcare. For the urban poor, often living in crowded conditions, public health mandates like social distancing were simply impossible. the economic devastation was just as unequal. In South Africa, a study showed that while affluent suburbs lost 1 in 7 jobs, the townships lost 1 in 4, and in the informal shack areas, more than a third of all jobs vanished. The crisis also highlighted the fragility of housing for many. Renters who typically have lower incomes were far more vulnerable to eviction. And it exposed the digital divide, where access to stable internet suddenly became the dividing line between keeping a job, attending school, and accessing essential services. In response, we saw incredible resilience from the ground up. In Nairobi, the city worked with UN Habitat to install hand-washing stations in informal settlements. In Rio de Janeiro, slum dwellers organized their own donation networks and public information campaigns. These grassroots efforts underscore the urgent need for more equitable urban policies moving forward. Out of this crisis came a powerful catalyst for rethinking the very design of our cities. The concept of the 15-minute city gained massive traction. Imagine a neighborhood where everything you need, work, shopping, school, healthcare, parks, is accessible within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. Paris, under Mayor Anne Hidalgo, has become the global poster child for this model, actively creating hyper-proximity to reduce pollution and commuting times. Melbourne is developing its own 20-minute neighborhoods, and Milan used the 15-minute model as a core part of its post-COVID recovery strategy. Another powerful idea is Barcelona's superblocks. By drastically reducing car traffic within a 9-block grid, the city creates massive new pedestrian zones, green spaces, and community areas. It's estimated that implementing over 500 of these superblocks could prevent nearly 700 premature deaths in the city each year. The pandemic also forced a mass reclamation of public space. Streets were temporarily converted into outdoor dining areas, pedestrian plazas, and pop-up bike lanes. These experiments were so successful that many are becoming permanent, fundamentally shifting the priority of our streets from cars to people. This naturally leads to the future of how we move. Urban mobility was turned on its head. Public transportation, the lifeblood of cities, saw ridership plummet due to infection fears. A study in Berlin, for example, found a long-term reduction of around 50% in public transport trip frequency. In its place, people turned to more individualized transport. While car use saw a resurgence, the real winner was the bicycle. The same Berlin study found that bicycle trip frequencies increased by 53%, and the distance traveled on bikes grew by a remarkable 117%. This shift was fueled by the new infrastructure cities were rolling out. The challenge now is to lock in these gains and prevent a future where traffic exceeds pre-pandemic levels, because former transit riders have permanently switched to cars. Powering this urban evolution is technology. The pandemic accelerated the adoption of smart city solutions as officials turned to data to manage the crisis. A survey of 167 cities found that 65% of officials believe smart city programs will be crucial for their post-pandemic future. During the lockdowns, Chicago used anonymized cell phone data to track travel patterns and monitor compliance with isolation mandates. Singapore deployed IoT systems to monitor crowd density in public spaces. Looking ahead, smart technology offers immense potential. Smart grids can optimize energy use. IoT-enabled traffic systems can reduce congestion, and expanded telemedicine networks can improve healthcare access. But this growing reliance on tech raises critical questions about data privacy and surveillance. Creating transparent governance frameworks to prevent the misuse of data is just as important as deploying the technology itself. Beyond the physical and economic changes, the pandemic triggered a deep social and cultural recalibration. The hardship of lockdowns fostered a renewed appreciation for community. Across the globe, mutual aid groups and grassroots support networks sprang up, bringing neighbors together and strengthening local identity. Our relationship with public space was also transformed. Parks and plazas became essential sanctuaries for mental and physical health. The creative use of these spaces for dining, recreation, and cultural events showed us their true potential for fostering dynamic and inclusive social life. The great challenge now is to nurture this renewed sense of community and ensure our social lives don't become permanently atomized and mediated through screens. The post-pandemic era has presented our cities with a once-in-a-generation opportunity to build back better. The crisis exposed our vulnerabilities, but it also proved our incredible capacity for change. To build the cities of the future, we must be guided by three core principles. First, resilience. We need to invest in systems, from local economies to green infrastructure, that can withstand the next shock, whether it's a pandemic or a climate event. Second, equity must be at the heart of every decision. A resilient city is an equitable city. This means committing to affordable housing, equal access to services, and bridging the digital divide for our most vulnerable residents. And third, we must continue to foster innovation. We must embrace bold ideas like the 15-minute city, car-free zones, and the adaptive reuse of our buildings. Ultimately, we must remember that cities are not just collections of buildings and roads. They are about people. Their future will be shaped by the everyday actions and choices of all of us. The post-pandemic city is still under construction, and it is up to all of us to ensure that it is a city that works for everyone. Thanks for tuning in to Fun Facts Online.